Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
And Dan and I are here to do a podcast commentary on Spider-Man 3, Dan. Are you excited?
Sort of. It's one of those movies that I don't watch very often, and it's always an interesting experience to sort of reflect on it. But, I can't say I'm ecstatic.
Well, things are kind of in perspective for me right now because I just recently did Batman and Robin. So, I feel like this is perhaps going to be a walk in the park comparatively.
Yeah, I mean, at least this movie tried.
So, if you've never listened to one of these before, what we do is Dan and I are going to watch Spider-Man 3 together. We're going to talk about it the whole way through. This is both a commentary and a podcast. So, what we do is we talk all the way through, and if you want to watch it with us, which is the most enjoyable way to do it, you can put in your DVD or your Blu-ray or however you want to watch it. Get your movie rigged up to timestamp 0. So go ahead and actually start playing the film, pause it right at 0, and then hit the play button whenever Dan and I tell you to get going. And if you don't want to watch the movie with us, we'll do our very best to provide context for everything we're talking about, so that you can listen to this wherever you happen to be and still hopefully get something out of it. Though you probably should, have seen the film.
Yeah, definitely. It's sort of difficult to get a context for the scenes, even if with us describing them, if you haven't seen the film before. Especially, I think, with some of the odd things that go on in this film.
Yes. Well, Dan, are you ready?
I think so.
Are you ready for 2 hours and 20 minutes of this?
That I don't know.
Well, we'll talk about that and more. Here we go. Everybody, please press your play button if you're going to watch the film with us right now.
Columbia. I always liked that Sony used Columbia for Spider-Man because it's Statue of Liberty, New York. It's cool.
That's a good point. I wouldn't have thought of that. Men in Black used that too.
Did they? Oh,
yeah,
cool.
When Men in Black does it, the Statue of Liberty does the neuralizer at you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thing. So it flashes, and then you apparently have now forgotten the fact that you saw the Columbia logo before you see the film. So you're not missing anything really important.
They should have put sunglasses on the Statue of Liberty as well. That would have been awesome.
Awesome.
And a suit.
So, how afraid were you for this film when it first came out, Dan? Did you have the same reaction a lot of people had just seeing previews and things where, oh no, too many characters, is that going to be a problem?
Well, I have an interesting perspective on this film when it came out, because at the time I wasn't very old. And I hadn't read as much Spider-Man as I have now, and I didn't think as critically about things as I do now. So the fact that I was just seeing Venom in a movie was awesome to me. Just going in. And the black costume, because that's always been my favorite Spider-Man costume.
Well, I gotta say that even, being well out of high school when this film came out, I had not the same thing. I mean, I didn't love it. I'm not going to say that. But I think I enjoyed it a lot more in the theater than I did on repeat viewings, just because, Venom looked pretty good,
Yeah.
His origin was kind of whacked out and condensed entirely, into about 20 minutes.
Right.
But I did enjoy just getting to see that on the big screen, because I never knew if I would.
Yeah, Venom's one of those things that sort of was iffy for me. I didn't know if they were ever going to try to do it on the big screen. At least in the way I would have wanted them to do it, with the whole alien thing. I mean, I don't necessarily mind them using the Ultimate origin if they do it again somewhere, but the alien angle has always been my favorite take on it.
I think perhaps that would be the smartest way to go if they were to do Venom in the new continuity.
Oh yeah, definitely, because you'd be able to connect it with Peter's parents somehow.
and play it like everything else, right?
I mean, to be fair, in the Ultimate books, that's exactly what happens.
Okay.
Venom's created by Peter's father. So, it's not them finagling things. It's actually there in the source material.
Well, Dan, in criticizing and praising, but in criticizing this film,
Mm-hmm.
I want to do that really obnoxious, cliched thing that I always tell people they really shouldn't do, and start with what I think is the best thing about this film, which is the score.
Yeah, the score is pretty good. I really enjoy. I think you were talking about this before. I like the Venom theme a lot.
I love the Venom theme, and that's the only reason I wanted to mention that. And by the way, no, that's not the only thing I like about this movie. I just thought it would be funny to say that. But no, I think Christopher Young does a really good job of taking what Danny Elfman did and running with it, and he gives Venom this great menacing score and mixes it with the Sandman one in a really cool way. I don't know. The last time I watched this, I had that music stuck in my head for days.
Me too. And I agree with you. I think he did a really good job sort of being consistent with what Elfman did before, because before I sort of looked up, who worked on films and things, or paid attention to the credits at least, I didn't even know it was a different guy, to be honest with you. They sounded similar. I
didn't either before I paid attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
We're already past the scene, but I wanted to mention how amusing I think it is that Peter's still riding around with that helmet with with the sticker ripped off from Mr. Aziz.
Yeah, his life's gotten so much better, but he still has that helmet.
Well, it's not like he's making any more money.
That's true. He still lives in that apartment as well.
Well, and he's still somehow riding that same bike, even though I thought it got crushed.
Oh yeah.
Didn't it get kind of creamed in the second film?
Yeah, it did. It got hit by a car.
Did he repair it or buy another one just like it? Okay, so Mary Jane is in this play called Manhattan Memories, which is not a real play, as far as I can tell. I looked this up when I was working on trivia for this, mm-hmm. and in the previous film, she's in, of course, a real play, but this one I think is made up.
That's interesting that they put her in a real play in the second one. I wouldn't have expected that. That's really cool. It's a nice little touch. And here we have Mary Jane's good performance that everyone thinks is bad for some reason.
Oh, I don't understand it. We'll have to talk about that. It's so strange. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but is Peter sitting between the directors of this play, or
I'm not really
are they just
sure.
A couple of random old guys? Or I guess that guy next to the right of him's not quite as old as the other guy, but maybe I'm wrong. It's just the way they looked up at the stage when they sat down, they very much looked like they had a stake in this.
You think they might be producers on the movie or something?
I don't know. I guess that's possible. They just looked too important to just be watching a play. Especially because, they're in, the box, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. You have to know somebody to get those seats or be really rich, so either way.
I don't know why I'm even bringing that up. Let's talk about something that's not important at all. Mary Jane sounds fantastic right here.
Yeah, she does.
In fact, I kind of don't think that's her voice.
No, I don't. I know for a fact it's not.
Okay.
I don't know who it was that sang that, but I know Dunst's voice was dubbed over.
And here comes evil Harry Osborn.
Harry Osborn is one of my favorite things about the Raimi trilogy. Not in this movie necessarily, but I really like Franco in the role.
I think Franco is one of the best young actors of our age.
Me too. He's great.
And I think history will see that too.
I hope so. I hope for the best for him.
Given the career he's had over the last 10 years, I think.
Yeah, definitely. The fact that he was in the new Planet of the Apes movie and that was so successful, I think was a great boost for his career.
Well, and I think that biopic he did about the guy that got trapped out in the.
Oh yeah.
What in a mountain or something? Didn't he get nominated for that?
Yeah, the one where he was the hiker or whatever that had to.
I forget what that was called. It was something Days. I don't know why I'm blanking on the title.
Yeah, I read that book too for college.
Oh, did you? Wow.
Yeah. And I can't tell you the title of it. I know the author's name, Alston.
Oh, okay.
I don't know it was 140 something hours.
I'll look it up.
And here we see Mary Jane being happy for, like, the only time in the film.
For 6.5 seconds. Yeah, but you know what? She's not really happy either, because she's complaining about stupid things already before she actually has something to complain about. Where she's like, oh, the acoustics were like the applause wasn't very loud. I'm sorry, but these movies, and this one to a point of absurdity, go out of their way to make me not like her.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying.
127 Hours was what that film was called.
Okay, cool. I was sort of reminded, not because of how bad it was, but because of sort of how the conflict was going when I was going through Maximum Carnage today with Mary Jane in these movies, where they had Mary Jane in the role when they were married in the comics as her sort of taking Aunt May's role as doubting on Peter and worrying about him. And they would get into fights based on that, which would make a lot of sense. And Mary Jane acted sort of irrational sometimes, but it was sort of in character, whereas here, I feel like they're trying to do that, but she's just not sympathetic at all.
The difference is, there she would be irrational because she was afraid for him.
Exactly. And
here, she's irrational because she's being 100% selfish. She doesn't like his fame because, really, the way she comes off in this is, as long as I'm as famous as Spider-Man, this relationship can work. And I'm trying to think of something more superficial than that.
Yeah, it's like a celebrity pipe dream relationship.
Precisely. Yeah, honestly, you know what? I'm gonna go this far. It's like she thinks that she deserves no less than Spider-Man. Not Peter Parker.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man.
Yeah, and she needs to be, she needs to make herself as famous as possible to deserve him or something. I don't know. She seems just really insecure about herself. That's my main problem about her, which Mary Jane is insecure about herself.
But she doesn't show it on the outside like that.
Exactly.
In the comics, the idea is she's insecure and she overcompensates by coming off as really full of herself.
Exactly, and that's why her and Peter connect on an emotional level, is because they both have that sort of dual identity thing going on.
Dan, I don't even sort of buy that you could put two people on that bike.
Me either.
So, we just talked over one of the most contrived things I've ever seen in any movie ever.
The alien landed in a park next to them.
So I'm gonna belabor this because I love it. So the Venom symbiote in an asteroid lands in the middle of a park right next to Peter Parker just because Peter Parker has to get the black costume. That's the only reason. It not only could it have landed anywhere in New York, and when I reviewed this, I said it could have taken over Stan Lee as easy as it could have taken over Peter Parker. Mm-hmm. Not only does it land in New York, but it could have landed anywhere in the world.
Well, yeah, I mean, the only argument I could see anyone making, which we're not given this explanation in the film, so it's not really valid, but if you were to apply comic book symbiote things, projecting it onto this film, you could say maybe the symbiote, you know how it searches for the most powerful hosts in its vicinity?
Yeah.
Maybe when it was able to control how it was landing, and it landed there because it sensed a powerful person and wanted to bond with it.
But it still would be convenient that it happened to be heading in that particular trajectory, even if that was the case.
Right.
Why wouldn't it have sensed Harry Osborn?
That's true.
Who now has superpowers.
And he's evil, too.
Yeah, they'd be a perfect fit. That would have been interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know, when it gets up on his bike, it takes over where the license plate is. Mm-hmm. And I always thought it would be really funny if, like, a cop pulled him over. So, what's that on your license plate?
The entire film never happens after that. So now we have Sandman, who we're being introduced to, and his motivation is he can do anything he wants because he has a sick daughter.
Anything he wants.
Yep. Kill, extortion, robbery.
And a lot of the reason that it doesn't work for me is just because they don't have him justify any of the stuff he does really beyond breaking out of prison. You know, right. The other thing is, it's almost like they don't acknowledge a lot of the things that actually happen in this movie. It's not anything like as smart of a film as Spider-Man 2, because for most of that film, when stuff happens, the movie remembers it and talks about it. That should be a given, but I guess with this movie we have to talk about things that basic, because that's happening here, right?
Right.
Where you've got Flint Marko, who is, and we'll talk about this as we go along, who is going to, like you said, not just steal, not just break out of prison, but kill people and attempt to kill people. Sometimes, partially, it seems like for even revenge motives, but anything he does can be justified by the fact that he has a sick daughter.
Yeah, and I think the idea of him having a sick daughter and that being the reason why he is robbing banks and stuff could work.
It could work.
You could
I'm
have
not saying that doesn't work.
Right, exactly. I just wanted to clarify, because I sort of came off before as saying, oh, he has a sick daughter, that's the problem, when I was talking about it.
No, that's okay.
But
well, you're just quoting how it should have ended, because that was the single funniest joke in that whole thing.
Right.
I have a sick daughter, and that makes it okay for me to break the law.
Right.
But I do think that more of the problem isn't just that he's justifying stealing things because he has a sick daughter. That's at least a motivation. He at least has a reason for doing it. It's more that we're supposed to feel sympathetic that he becomes a giant crazy sand creature because he has a sick daughter. Like nothing that happens to him past the point that he breaks out of prison is his fault now because of that. That's really the problem.
Right, exactly. Like, if you had gone with a more, I mean, this isn't me necessarily saying, to use the comic book characterization for the sake of it, but if you had went with one more similar to that, where he's sort of a thug who doesn't really have any qualms about doing those sort of things, you could say he's doing those things to help a sick daughter and he doesn't care that he's killing people and stuff. He doesn't have a conscience about it.
Like, he's lost perspective.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
he's got tunnel vision. That's all he cares about.
Exactly.
It's almost like here the acting is too good. It's like he's too self-reflective.
Yeah.
I've never thought of that until you said that, but I think that's part of the problem, is like, he should just have more tunnel vision and just be like, whatever I have to do, and then somebody needs to set him straight. No, it's, what you're doing is, you have reasons, you have good reasons, you should help your daughter, but not at the expense of all else.
Right, exactly. I mean, and that would be a way to sort of, they're obviously trying to ape Doc Ock here, obviously, pull the sympathetic villain thing.
And most importantly, they're trying to use that as a formula. And in Spider-Man 2, it felt original. It wasn't a formula, and they went, and sequels are hard, and third movies, as we are aware, are really hard.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can't just, so in a way you need to take what worked in the second one, and especially if the second one was the best of them. Mm-hmm. In a way you want to take what was good about that and translate it to your third movie, but what you don't want is an oversimplification or a dumbed down version of that, and I think that's what we have here.
Right, exactly, and I think if you did Sandman like we were talking about before, you could have done something similar to Doc Ock, where he's a guy that has justifiable motivations, he's doing it for a reason that you can sort of sympathize with, but whereas Doc Ock had good in him, Sandman could have just been an evil bastard. So you could have had like a combination of Doc Ock and Norman Osborn going on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Of course, you also kind of are repeating yourself in that you have Harry Osborn.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, in an ideal world where this film doesn't have a million characters in it.
Well, let me ask you if you would agree with this. I think one of the biggest problems with this film is that it simply didn't need Sandman at all. I think that Harry Osborn should have just been the villain.
Yeah, I mean, I like Harry Osborn as a villain much more than Sandman, so I would have liked to have seen that. But I think it's very evident based on how this movie's made and who it's focusing on that I think Raimi wanted to use Sandman as the main villain of the film, and that's why he gets so much focus. Yeah,
but I don't understand that given what he did in the first two films. He spent too much time bringing Harry to this place.
Right, exactly.
to then shaft him the way that he does here. Especially with the amnesia plot, which we'll get to.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Especially with Franco's performance, there's some good points that you have said to me before that we should definitely talk about.
You and I have talked about this movie before, and I want to make sure that this point got made, because this is one of your points, and I like it a lot. it is very odd that Aunt May is totally cool with just giving him the her engagement ring and having him propose just after she just left another guy at the altar.
Yeah.
Which is not even referenced at all.
Yeah. They totally have amnesia about that.
So this suit looks stupid.
Oh, it looks incredibly stupid. He looks like a snowboarder. He doesn't even look like a goblin at all.
Well, and luckily, he at least doesn't feel the need to go around calling himself a goblin. I mean, right. Peter has that line later where he calls him Goblin Jr., and of course all the product stuff called him New Goblin, which was right. even sillier than just what he looks like. But I think it's just sort of, oh, he's young, so he has to look like a surfboard guy. I mean, like,
right.
That's so 90s. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. That does look like a completely 90s Marvel thing.
Really, when he gets done smashing Peter Parker against all these buildings, he's gonna go find his little friends and play with Pogs.
I mean, to be fair, some of the biggest Harry Osborn Green Goblin stories happened in the 90s, so maybe that's what they were going for. But
I think it was just an attempt at trying to figure out how to make a young guy makes sense as a goblin, but A, like you said, he's not a goblin, and B, the way it's set up at the end of 2, I would have liked to have seen him just use his father's tech and not have to try to make it look like Norman made this board thing for no good reason.
Right. I mean,
maybe he thought it was an upgrade, but I don't know.
I think the kind of problem you have with using the old suit too is a lot of people thought that looked really silly.
Yeah, but it didn't look any sillier than this.
No, it didn't, definitely.
So and at least it was a costume. I mean, this isn't even really a costume.
No, it's not. I mean, but thinking about just the people making the movie going into it, they're probably thinking, all right, the suit in the first film did look a little silly. Let's try to change it up a little bit. But the Green Goblin costume's really tough. Getting a mask like the one that he has in the comics to work on screen. Good luck to anyone that ever tries that, or Raimi tried to do it in the first movie, and because you've seen like the makeup tests and stuff they did, right?
Yeah, you've shown me that, and yeah, it didn't work. But let me, well, can you at least agree though that it might have been nice for him to have at least been on the same glider? Because
that would have been nice. That would have played into the Halloween motif a little bit with the bat glider and everything.
Well, and also, I think that it would have played in really well thematically in that he's only doing all this because he
feels father,
he has to be for his father, yeah.
See, it would have been nice if they told us, for sure, if that tech was upgrades of his father's stuff, because then thematically that point could have happened.
As it is, we have to guess, and we really the only way that you want to go is, well, Norman just had that stuff laying around, because if he didn't, we have to somehow buy that this guy built this stuff, and I don't buy it.
No, Harry was never the scientific genius that Norman was.
Well, and they made not only was he not a scientific genius, he didn't know anything about anything. They made a big deal out of that in the first movie, that Peter was really smart, and Harry Osborn was really average.
Yeah, exactly. And
he's not dumb, but he's average, He's
right.
he's like me. He's
exactly.
When it comes to science, he's just an average kind of guy.
Right. And that's totally Harry,
Right.
Comic book Harry, that's his whole sort of deal, is that he's always trying to live up to the legacy of his father, and he has misguided ideas about what his father did in his life.
May I say, though, that fight right there is pretty thrilling. And
it is pretty thrilling.
I think they did a wonderful job of making that look good with him not in a Spider-Man suit. That must not be easy to do that kind of a battle out of regular costume in that kind of clothes.
Yeah, and it gives you a good opportunity to get some FaceTime for the actors too, because they're always making a big deal about, we need to take his mask off during fights and stuff. You avoid that connotation here.
Well, and this at that point, after all, is not about two guys who have costume personas. They know who each other are.
Exactly, yeah.
So we ought to see them fighting that way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the other hand, a lot of critics, including Roger Ebert, said that part of the problem with this movie is that there's not enough Spider-Man in it.
That's interesting. I've never really sat down and thought about how many scenes of Spider-Man in costume there are here.
Well,
Oh.
the thing is, Roger Ebert gave Spider-Man 2 4 stars.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time said that it was one of the best comic book movies ever made. And
Rightly so, I think.
I think so too. And he said that I think that it has since been eclipsed, but I think it's still a very good film. And he would say, if I remember right, one of the things that he said was that with that film, it had a really good balance of the humanity with the superhero stuff. That it didn't forget that it was a superhero film, but that it focused on, trying to make these people feel like real people for the most part. And we can argue about Mary Jane, but for the most part.
Yeah.
And then with Spider-Man 3, he said that the problem with it is that they forgot about the superhero stuff, and so they were trying to fall back on the human stuff, and they oversimplified it, and it didn't work, so they had nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I agree with that.
Yeah, I do too. They even tried to make the big, I mean, obviously that's sort of integral to Spider-Man, making the conflict about him personally, but even the main physical conflict here with the black suit sort of bringing out his dark side and everything, they even tried to make that about the humanity and stuff, which I feel like is a noble cause, but it just wasn't executed properly at all.
Yeah, and it should be, but
exactly, that's what I'm saying.
And we'll get there. This is another one of those really, really silly contrivances, and it's almost as silly as the meteor. Somebody tell me, first of all, what exactly they're doing with this nighttime sand experiment. What are they trying to do?
Yeah, it reminds me.
Particle accelerator with a bunch of sand. What are they experimenting on? Like, what's the deal?
I have no idea.
And how did he just happen to stumble upon the one crazy thing in the city that could possibly do this to him?
Yeah, it's weird. It reminds me of Hulk's origin in some ways.
This is simply really lazy.
Yeah.
They could have definitely come up with something that would make all this a great deal more cohesive. It's one of those things where, a good supervillain origin, especially one that gives him superpowers, should have something to do with the character thematically. Not in a silly way, but like it's good. It's good when like the power somehow reflects something personality-wise, and also makes sense with like the background we've been given for him already. Now, I don't know exactly how you would have done that with this, but, like, if there was going to be some big sand trap thingy, we should have seen it already. We've already seen this guy.
What they could have done is him breaking into a laboratory trying to steal something and then getting caught in the experiment.
That's a great point, sure. Yeah, just something that goes along with what his motivations are.
Right, exactly.
What his wants are. He's a character. He wants something. So, but as it is, he just slips and falls in a sand trap.
Yeah.
Because we need him to have superpowers. So many of the plot points in this film simply serve the script, and what the script is trying to do is make comic book bad guys happen.
That's a very good segue into the scene we're watching right now.
Let's go over it, Dan.
I was going to say Defoe. Franco changes his performance after this point, and you were talking to me about this before, and I think you made a great point, saying that he acts really creepy and sort of evil under the surface. And that's very indicative of comic book Harry Osborn when he sees his father die at the end of Death of Gwen Stacy and figures out that Peter's Spider-Man but doesn't tell him. He's very, like, creepy, and Peter's like, why is this guy acting all creepy all of a sudden? Other than the fact that his dad died, he's kind of a creepy guy. And he was plotting against him the whole time.
This is a huge, sad, missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Because the first time I saw this film in the theater, this scene was the point where I thought he was turning around.
Mm-hmm.
Really was. Because, right at first I went, oh no, amnesia plot. And then, just looking at, like, the giant smiles and stuff, like he's really overdoing it. Yeah. And I was going, I don't think he has amnesia. I think he's pretending, and everything that the film is doing narratively, everything that Raimi's doing with his camera angles, with what he's having the actors do with their faces, all told me, at least, I thought, as I was watching this the first time, that he was hiding things and he was pretending. And I mean, just like the way that Mary Jane and Peter there in the scene that just passed, like look at each other, and she says, you know, you guys seem great and all that. Like, something feels off about all that.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels off to me.
Could have been great.
Yeah, I feel like it could have been too. It feels off to me that Peter's completely okay with his problems getting erased like that too. You know what I mean? But
yeah, that's a good point. I don't buy that for him either. He should feel really bad about that.
Right? Yeah. He's like, oh, extreme convenience is gonna solve one of my problems for me. Great. I don't have to take responsibility for this anymore.
I guess we learned nothing in 3 films. All right.
Yes. And here we have the best Sandman scene in the movie.
I'm going to say that this is one of those go-to scenes for how to make CG not just cinematic, but make you care about a character.
Mm-hmm. If this somehow tied in thematically with what they were going to do with Sandman's character, this would have been a beautiful, beautiful scene. I mean, it's beautiful already, but
by itself, if this was just a short film, you know, if it was just, no, really, if it was just like, you know, the guy who turns into sand and is afraid he'll never be able to have a relationship with his daughter now. Mm-hmm. Really, like look at this outside of any kind of context, and it's beautiful.
Yes, it is.
But only outside of context. I mean, like, I think that it does technically tie thematically. I just think that it's, you know, kind of lame. I mean, you know, it's.
I mean, the whole thing with him sort of trying to get up and falling down the whole time, I guess that sort of ties in. But I wish it was. I don't know. I just wish there was depth to the character to make this scene matter more. That's what I mean.
Well, and again, kind of like Mary Jane, it's already kind of going out of its way. I think accidentally, of course, to make me not like this guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's just okay. I get it. You have a daughter. Like, you guys are trying too hard.
Yeah.
That's really what it all boils down to. Is just with this character, we are trying too hard, and while at the same time. There's just some structural problems, right? Where they have already set up far too many things that I want them to get to, and I'm feeling like this should be some other film. Mm-hmm. We just had the Venom I know that I'm saying this knowing something about comics, but like we just had the symbiote jump on his bike. We haven't come back to that yet.
Yeah, this movie's really strange, and I never really noticed it before watching it recently because I don't sit down and watch it all the time, and I hadn't watched it for.
Why not, Dan?
A number of years. But I never really noticed how much of a gap there is between some of the events that take place in the film when they're paid off. It happens like that with a lot of things in the movie. Like, we won't revisit Harry for a while now.
Yeah, you forget about these things, and then they come back and you go, oh yeah. I mean, like, it's like you gotta make a roadmap to figure out where you are, but it's not like the film's that complicated either.
Right, and it's not like a good, like, Claremontian way, where it's like, oh, they're bringing that back, that little thing that I didn't think was gonna matter, and now it's a huge plot point that's blowing my mind. It's just sort of like, oh, we're gonna remove Harry from the film by plot contrivance for half of it.
It would be like if Claremont was, let's take the Claremont example. It would be like if Claremont was afraid that for some reason X-Men was going to get canceled or he was going to not be able to work on the book anymore.
Yeah.
And he were to have done like Dark Phoenix and Days of Future Past simultaneously.
Oh my god.
But I don't think I'm being that far-fetched by saying that that's kind of what we have here. We've got evil Harry Osborn and Venom and Sandman and going back to Origin all in the same film.
Yeah, that is true. That's a really good example.
And the difference is they're not doing it because they're afraid they're not going to get more movies because originally their plan was to make this 2 films.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, there was a lot of talk about just having Venom, just having Black Costume Hero doing Venom in a second film. They hadn't thought about splitting it up that way.
I would have liked that, because there's a gap of time in the comics, too, where Venom doesn't come back.
Well, and the other thing, too, is you could have just cliffhangered it.
Right, exactly. You have the little post-credit sequence. He's the Thanos of Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I should point this out, and there's some stuff going on with Mary Jane here, right? By the way, that's making me cringe. But I guess I won't bring it up yet because we're talking about some other things. But anyway, she's just being a jerk to Peter. Like he's gonna go out and save some people, and she's like, yeah, whatever. Anyway, because
you're a bad person because you're not listening to me complain, and are doing something proactive instead.
Yeah, and all she has to do is say is let Peter know what's going on and that she got fired, but no, she's not going to do that. she's above that sort of communication in a relationship.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I want to mention, Dan, that there was this little documentary that came out that was packaged with some copies of Spider-Man 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they released it by itself, too. That was a documentary all about the history of the black costume in the comics.
Oh, cool.
And it came out right before this film. And I bought that, and I watched it, and in the documentary, it only covers black costume.
That's cool.
When you get to the end of the commentary, they basically are like, and then it became this big monster thing, but you're going to have to read that for yourself. We're not going to talk about that in this documentary. And they just kind of show his face, and then they go away. And I really thought that they were doing that for a reason.
Yeah, because then they could have put out a Venom one when the fourth movie came out.
I thought they were maybe at the time they didn't know. I thought they were doing that because we weren't going to get Venom in this, really, or just at the very end. Because it wasn't until just a few weeks before the movie was released that they were willing to show us anything from Venom.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
If I'm remembering right. And my wife and I actually had a bet about whether or not Eddie Brock would turn into Venom in this.
Oh yeah?
And she lost. She really didn't think that they would be crazy enough to do all this in the same movie. And then the night we went and saw it, I found a screenshot of Venom attacking Spider-Man, and she was like, "Shut up." But just because Eddie Brock was in this didn't necessarily mean that Venom had to be.
Right, exactly. Because
you set him up, and then you make him Venom in the next one.
Right, exactly.
Would have been great.
I would have liked it that way as well, because you could have spent a lot more time setting up Venom's origin and making his reason for hating Spider-Man much more sound.
Oh, and when we were talking about all those stories they felt they need to throw all together, let's also throw Gwen Stacy in this movie.
Yeah, and she acts like Mary Jane.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that maybe what would have made this a better movie, Dan, is if they had, instead of trying to make this so extremely serious with all this stuff thrown in, just gone toward the complete absurdity it already is and just totally embrace it. Like, kill Gwen Stacy off in this, have that story in there too. Put in Rhino, put in Juggernaut. Well, they couldn't have done Juggernaut, but just put in put in Shocker.
I'm really surprised Raimi didn't choose Gwen as the primary love interest for these movies.
Oh, are you? Considering he was such a big fan of the early stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's his stuff. He only likes the early stuff, from what I've heard. So I'm kind of surprised. I mean, Mary Jane was there later on. When she did the whole "you just hit the jackpot" thing, but her and Peter didn't date until later, after quite a bit after Death of Gwen Stacy. So,
do you think he just used her because she was more popular?
I have a feeling that might have been one of the things that Sony mandated with the script early on, because she was in the cartoon that had just ended, the 90s series when the first movie came out. Everyone sort of knew her, so.
Yeah. And, well, they certainly made decisions on the X-Men films based on the X-Men cartoon. Shades and I talked about that a lot. And, I mean, that cartoon was, I think, more popular than the Spider-Man cartoon, but it had to have been influential.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it made some of the Venom stuff more popular.
Oh, yeah, for sure, because they did Venom, first season of that show.
They sure did.
Which I was kind of surprised about, going back and looking at retrospectively that they did it first season. But I can see why they did, because that was probably the most popular thing going on at the time. That was at the height of Venom's overexposure when that series started. And this joke I found to be funny with Jameson and the medicine.
It's okay. It's, I don't know. I thought I think this whole scene is awkward, and not necessarily in a good way. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I think they've gone overboard by this point. It really feels like they're out of jokes for Jameson.
Mm-hmm.
To me, and maybe I'm being too hard on that. I don't know. I mean, like they're selling it well, but like the whole thing with the guy when he walks in like trying to do the obvious campaigns, or not campaigns, but like the obvious slogan for the newspaper and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like all that.
Yeah, there's definitely a disconnect, I think, between the quality of the jokes with Jameson and everyone at the Bugle from 1, 2, and 3 here. But this gag was one of the ones that I did get a chuckle out of.
And that's not to say that there aren't some things later with Jameson that I think are... I think my favorite line he has in the whole thing is, "That's not the position I hired you for." That's pretty great.
Yeah. Now, would you be opposed to having J.K. Simmons recast in the Amazing Universe? Do you think that would fit?
No, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I think Simmons is a great actor, and I think he would do it differently.
I think so, too. I think it would be interesting to see him get a chance to play a more layered Jameson.
I think that doing it now at his age is the time to do it.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, like, I don't think he's too old for the role. We've seen a Jameson that looks older than this before, I think. And I think an older version of the character who's kind of like the early 60s Jameson would be cool.
Yeah, I'd like to see, because they've done this before in the comics where they sort of delve into the reason why he hates masked vigilantes so much and connecting that to things that he's had in his past, obviously. And I think that would be really interesting if they're going to focus on him as a character in the Amazing films. Cause
I see zero reason to bring him in if they don't focus on him in some way.
Right. So how did you, initially, when you heard Topher Grace was cast as Eddie Brock, because I didn't have the sort of perspective you did, I wasn't really following the casting, how did you feel about that?
Well, I wasn't watching that 70s show, so I didn't know him from Adam.
Okay.
But, of course, I looked at one picture and went, I guess they decided to just go, what does Eddie Brock look like? Let's not pick that guy.
Yeah.
Here's Stan Lee's cameo.
I love this cameo. This is one of my favorites of his.
Yeah, I think it is pretty cool. And he had to say "Nuff said" in one of these.
Yeah, he did.
That had to happen, so that's good. I don't think he said Excelsior yet.
I don't think he has either. I was going to mention that as well. Maybe.
But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Maybe in Thor 4, as he called it at the convention I was at. He's like, "Oh, wait till you see my cameo in Thor 4."
That's awesome.
Yeah. Or 3. It was a number of Thor films that didn't exist.
I was gonna say but it probably will eventually.
Yeah.
I was gonna say with Topher Grace, I tried to give it the benefit of the doubt because like they've had some casting issues in the series, but most of it, weirdly enough, seems to have been recurring people, not one-timers.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre. They seem to be pretty good,
with the exception of this film.
With the exception of this film, yeah. And so I was like, nah, he's been all right with villains. I think maybe that'll work. And he's not Eddie Brock, and there are things about his characterization that I actually kind of like, and we'll get there. It's different, but it's funny, and it's befitting of this film, because this film didn't quite work out. So I don't know, we'll get there. But yeah, I don't know what they were thinking with that cast.
I think they were going for a little bit more of an Ultimate take on him, casting him in that way, because the Ultimate Eddie Brock is kind of a sleazeball before he gets the Venom costume. Like, he's kind of just a bad guy, whereas Eddie Brock before was sort of he was not a bad person, but he was sort of driven to evil by his circumstances.
I'm going to say this, though. If they wanted to go with more of an Ultimate version, they would have been better off going all the way with Ultimate and making Eddie Brock an old friend of Peter Parker's.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
they could have had a really interesting platonic triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Like friend kind of triangle with Harry Osborn.
Oh yeah, that would have.
I think, given that so much of this movie is about, what has happened, the friendship that has been corrupted by him thinking that Peter killed his father, it would have been really interesting to have Venom come in and shake that up, or Eddie Brock pre and then post Venom come in and shake that up.
Yeah, and it would have made the ending where Goblin suddenly decides to become a superhero work a little bit better thematically.
So now we've got the producers, and I guess I was wrong. These are not the same guys. In fact, one of these is one of the nerds from the X-Files, I think.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, because there was like this cool trio of nerds in the X-Files that would always help out with Mulder in like hacking computers and things, and I think that's one of them. But anyway, so like they tell her that all the newspapers had bad reviews of her film. And, I mean, like, I guess I'm probably not the guy necessarily to review musical theater, but I watched at least part of it, and I thought it was fine. I don't know.
Right, and the reason they gave that, her performance wasn't good in the reviews was that they couldn't hear her past the first row. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily her fault, right? Like Peter said, it was the acoustics and stuff. That could have been a problem. Is
it just her fault as an actress that she didn't play the scene right? Because if they had wanted to play it like she's not confident enough being an actress, getting as popular as she's getting, she's choking. Because the thing is, she looked confident.
Mm-hmm.
She looked like she was owning that role. So all she had to do was play that like, I don't really know what I'm doing and I don't want to be up here. And then that would have been fine.
Right, and it's sort of contradictory, too, because she's all confident on stage, and the first couple things she says to Peter is, oh, they didn't clap hard enough.
Yeah. So it just doesn't make any kind of sense.
Yeah.
It's sort of like... I don't know if you've ever seen any episodes of Glee, but it's sort of like if you ever saw, no, really, I'm going to say this, like if you ever saw an episode of Glee, they'll sometimes do goofy things in that show where somebody will give this amazing performance and then everybody will complain about how bad it is because no one can sing badly in that show. Except for like a couple of token times that they'll do it. Well, you're not missing anything necessarily. Well, I don't know. There's some fun stunt casting in that show. But,
oh yeah,
I've seen some of it, bits and pieces here and there. But
cool.
Yeah, it's a little after school special for me. But I like songs.
Yeah, songs are fun.
So, Eric always says that one of the problems with this movie is that if you're going to have this many characters in it anyway, wouldn't this be the place to have just some token bad guys that Spider-Man fights in a couple places, just to give the sense that he's done more stuff than just the two things we've seen him do in the first two films.
Right, that would be a good way, I think, to open the film, where you have Spider-Man narrating about how much the city loved him. You could have had him, punching out Shocker or Rhino, like you said before, being like, and people cheering and stuff, and that's the reason why he's so overconfident now. I think that would have worked really well.
And we need to talk about that because from what we're given, I don't think he's overconfident.
Really? Okay.
Not really. I think that that's a projection that Mary Jane is giving to make herself feel better about the fact that she isn't as popular as she wanted to be, and that she got fired from that play. It really seems like again, it's like the film is going out of its way to tell us a characterization that they're not really showing us. I don't see really what he's doing wrong. I mean, like, the man doesn't have any information about what has happened to her.
Well, I just meant, like, the fact that some of the little things he does, like when he was taking pictures of Mary Jane, he was really taking pictures of the Spider-Man sign instead, and stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Oh, I guess that was there. Well, that's just going too far in the script then, you know what I mean? Like, I almost don't blame him.
Well, I mean, that's obviously what they were trying to do with this movie, is make Peter Parker flipping the premise of the last two movies on its head, where he's hated and feared by everyone. Here, he's loved by everyone, and he has to deal with the repercussions of that. That's obviously what they were trying to do, and
that would have been fine if the biggest consequence wasn't a fiance that kind of doesn't deserve him.
Well, I mean, I think the idea was to have it affect him too. originally. I mean, the way it's here, it doesn't really.
But that's what I mean. It's just the way that it's going. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know why
so
this film, with the way Harry's acting.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like he has amnesia. He seems like he's being a creepy, scary bad guy.
Yeah. He's so, smug about everything. I think that's what it is, you know?
I really wonder if Franco was playing it that way and didn't, at the time, know where it was going. Now, I doubt it. I'm sure they gave him the whole script.
Yeah.
You know? This would be a strange script to be like, where Raimi's like, yeah, we're not going to tell you the ending. Unless they shot parts of this not knowing if they were going to extend it to a fourth film. But I kind of don't know if that happened, and I sort of doubt that it did.
Yeah, I would imagine that was a thing that would have been going on at the scripting stage, where they were filming it.
You're right. I focus too much on this Mary Jane's being selfish bit, because he does have these at least these token scenes of I'm overconfident where he's like, oh, they love me, and
right, like when he confronts the Sandman for the first time. I mean, this is sort of a classic Spider-Man gag that he says. I could picture Spider-Man saying it, but it's sort of arrogant, where he's like, haven't you heard? I'm the sheriff around these parts.
Yeah. No, you win. Now, do you think that it's just wrong in principle for this for Spider-Man in this to like appear at his own festival like this?
Not really. I mean, that's something I could see him doing, because he's like, oh, I'm finally getting some gratification for all of the crap that I've went through for these people, and they've been hating me.
Yeah. No, I think so too.
Yeah.
So, I don't think, once again, that Mary Jane's being fair at all in being so, like, angry with him for kissing Gwen Stacy upside down like that.
Yeah, and it's not like there was tongue involved or anything, from what we saw.
Well, later on, her whole argument is going to be, oh, that's our kiss. But, like, he didn't go upside down planning on doing that on purpose. Like, she just came over.
Right, exactly. It wasn't like he initiated it.
I just feel like she's looking for excuses to act the way she's acting.
Right. And if Mary Jane was flipped in that position, if she was given, if she was put in a position where someone was going to stroke her ego, she definitely would have taken it.
Oh, absolutely she would have. Yeah, that's the thing, is that she's so hypocritical, because she wouldn't be acting this way if her play was going well.
Oh, no, definitely not. If Peter was, the one that his life was in the crapper right now, she'd probably be just talking about, oh yeah, everything in my play, it's going awesome. So what do you think of this scene with Sandman in the truck? I think it's a pretty cool use of his powers there, flooding the truck with sand. I always thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think it looks great. There's that goofy line you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm the sheriff around these parts.
See, if Garfield delivered that, it would have been so much better.
That's true.
I mean, I'm not one to... I prefer Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker over Tobey Maguire, but I don't vehemently dislike or hate Tobey Maguire like a lot of people have taken to doing. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, I still never liked him in the role that much.
Yeah, he's not my favorite, but I don't hate him. You know what I mean? Like, he's not incompetent.
Well, the thing is, I've got Mary Jane on screen to hate. So yeah. I don't need to.
And the way these films are written, they're not written really as comic book Peter Parker anyway, so I can kind of reconcile that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but what's irritating are those token moments where it pretends to be.
Exactly, yeah.
And you've got those with Mary Jane, too. We talked about that a lot when we did the first film. Those scenes where, like, the first 20 minutes, you think she's kind of normal Mary Jane, and then just all of a sudden there's this flip where she's, like, a cross between that and Lana Lang from Smallville.
Yeah, and they had a little line at the beginning of this film that I thought was sort of indicative of comic book Mary Jane, too, where she's like, oh, you're such a nerd. It's totally something Mary Jane would tell him.
Can I just say real quick how ridiculous it is that he has sand in his boots and in his mask?
Yeah, I always wondered how those boots
Pretty skin-tight looking, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know how that even happened.
That's a massive chafe going on.
Ow. Sounds horrible, too. Now that I'm thinking about it, like, how could he have that much sand in that? Like, really, somebody had to have just come over and put a bucket of it in his boot.
Yeah. See, look at Mary Jane's arriving at an expensive dinner that Peter booked already angry.
Yeah. And she's going to find more things to be mad about. Well, she's mad because he kissed that girl upside down.
Yeah. I mean, like, but she said the first thing she says when she sits down is, "Oh, can you afford this place? You."
Oh, that's right.
Idiot.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, Peter's not. He's not going in with the intention of making this up to her. He's going into this asking to propose from his perspective. But
yeah,
if I was her, I'd be thinking, oh, if I was angry about that, which I wouldn't, it wouldn't be. But if I was her and I was angry about it, I might look at it as, oh, he's trying to make amends for it. Let's see if he's, able to do that. I love him. Let's give him a chance. He's trying.
Yeah, and if I were him, I'd stand up for myself a little bit. That's the thing is that neither of them are, very sympathetic in this scene.
No.
Or in their whole relationship, the whole film.
Yeah, and it's debatable as to whether they are in the previous films, too.
Yeah, but then it just gets absurd here.
Yeah, it does.
Like, it makes me uncomfortable. I'm sitting here going, can we talk about something else? Like, I feel like we've been talking about this relationship so long, I just want to, like, pick something else. Like, boy, look at that map behind that guy.
It's so unfortunate that they fumbled the relationship stuff in these movies, because that's such a big part of Spider-Man, and
if you ever hear Raimi and them talk about it, too, they don't think they did.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, if you've ever listened to the commentary on this film especially, like, they were so proud of this movie, it's like they didn't even get it, like...
Well, at least Raimi had some sort of enthusiasm for it. I can see him trying. Obviously. I mean, this isn't... On a technical level, it's a well-made film, I think.
Yeah, no, it's well made. It's just the
nothing works script-wise.
Super wonky, and nothing's working with these characters.
Yeah. Exactly.
And everything is so extremely light switchy as far as character motivations and, when people change their minds about things. And
yeah, exactly.
Especially later on when we get to Harry Osborn and when we haven't even begun talking about the fact that Peter Parker kills people but just gets lucky that they're not dead. We'll get there.
Ooh.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah. It's like we're reading No Turning Back all over again.
Okay, so, once again, this is just a case of a person who can't communicate, and we're supposed to sympathize because she's refusing to communicate. Because I hate it when people do this. And maybe the problem is that there are real people like this, and I've met them, so I don't like it. Because I'm like, no, she's too realistic. Make her more like a person who's not like that. When she's like, Peter, you have no idea how I feel right now. Here's this, I don't know, I got this wacky idea. How about you tell him? How about you not just go, because basically she's just going, well, you're not like, you're not being fair to me by not just automatically knowing, understanding what I'm going through. Except he doesn't even know that she lost the part.
Right, I mean...
How would he know that?
I think anyone who's ever been in a real relationship with anyone... knows that if it's a stable relationship, you have to have some sort of trust and you can confide in the person that you're in the relationship with. So you should feel like you're able to tell them your problems and work them out and have them help you. You're supposed to support each other and make each other's lives happier. And that's obviously not going on here, and why it's so frustrating to watch this relationship flounder while we're supposed to care about it.
When I heard that Gwen Stacy was going to be in this movie, the first thing I thought was, man, I hope that's not a love triangle.
And it was.
And then they just did the most obvious possible thing to do with it. And I love, too, this movie does not mind contrivances. It doesn't even sort of try to steer clear of them. It's like, oh, she's mad that Spider-Man kissed Gwen Stacy. Let's just put her in the restaurant.
Yeah.
Hey, Peter, how dare you have a lab partner and save her life? Yeah,
Gwen Stacy comes off to me as extremely shallow in this movie. which I'll get to later when we go to the scene in the dancing club when he takes her out on a date.
She strikes me as a non-entity, though. Like she's not a character in this. She's here to be. She's here for two reasons: fan service, so that those of us who have heard of Gwen Stacy can go, "Oh, cool, they put her in this movie." And then we need. I mean, forgive me for saying it like this, but we need another pair of legs in this movie.
Yeah.
So that when he, really, everything is done just for these script reasons. So that when we get to the black costume stuff, he can have a girl to rub in her face. Yeah. That's the only reason she's here.
Yeah, that is true.
The whole thing is a goofy Jenga tower.
Yeah,
really, like, they're just building a Jenga tower, and then they pull, like, pieces out of the middle, and then they put them on top, and they hope it doesn't fall down.
Yeah, I think it would have made a lot more sense to use, if they were going to do this, use a character as a pair of legs as Peter's rebound girl. It would have made a lot more sense to me to use Felicia Hardy here, but...
Ooh, see, the problem with that, though, is that would then be putting, like, a ninth big comic book story right in the middle of it. Because you couldn't have Felicia Hardy without Black Cat, so then you got another costume.
Well, I mean, what you could do, feasibly is, if they were going to split this into two films like they said before, save Venom and Black Cat for 4, and just introduce her here.
Absolutely. Did you ever play the Spider-Man 2 video game?
I did.
I really like what Black Cat's done with there.
Yeah, I really liked most of the stuff that they did with the villains in that game. I thought it was a lot of fun. That was one of my favorite Spider-Man games.
And I thought it meshed pretty well with the continuity of those first two movies.
It did. The funny thing about those games, though, is every time one of them comes out that ties into the movie, they, like, do the same villains over again, because they have to, like, be like, oh, yeah, the villains haven't appeared in the continuity of the movies yet. We can do them over again. You have to line up.
You know, something the Amazing Spider-Man game did, which I played all of 10 minutes of and didn't really care for it, so I didn't play it, but it opens with Smythe.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that about it. It uses a lot of obscure villains like Vermin and stuff, which I was like, oh, Vermin, that's cool.
But I think Smythe would be a fantastic character for one of those movies.
I think Smythe would work really well in the Amazing universe, especially.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Oh.
Anyone with a science angle would work really well. And it's really interesting. I can't remember his name, but the guy who was of Indian descent, the actor who played that doctor who worked for Oscorp. Do you remember his name?
I don't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about.
I guess in the original script drafts, he was Miles Warren.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I wish they kept that.
Me too.
So this is where things really start falling apart.
Yeah.
I mean, let's keep in mind all the things that have been set up and not brought back yet. We've got the black costume still just, as far as we know, sitting on the back of a motorcycle.
Oh, they actually did
we already
go into
see
his room.
Okay, sorry. Of course, we were talking because we're doing a commentary, and I forgot. But yeah, okay, so they flashed back to it again.
They showed it twice.
But it still hasn't really done anything.
Right.
It's been introduced, and that's it. But again, if you know comics, or even if you don't, you're probably sitting here going, when is this going to factor in, and can we be sure that it's going to get enough play? Like,
if you don't know comics, does that even, does the significance of that even register? Like,
no.
You're just seeing this goo crawl around. If I didn't know comics, I'd be like, what is this? Why do they keep showing us this?
So you think they're actually relying too much on the popularity of that?
Well, yeah, think about it. Like, they never told you what it was up until he actually puts the thing on and goes to Kurt Connors.
Yeah, and that's just Kurt Connors speculating for all we know.
Right.
I mean, yeah, we don't know anything about its origin. It came from space.
Right.
That's it.
And see, we have here someone again making the mistake of overcomplicating the Spider-Man origin. I think making Sandman the killer of Uncle Ben takes it a little bit too out of Peter's hands as far as, the whole fate thing where he doesn't use his power responsibly and then it comes back to bite him in the end.
Yeah, it's difficult to do that credibly. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's really hard in retrospect to do that credibly.
Right.
Because clearly this was not planned from the beginning.
No.
It also calls attention to something that always bugged me from the first film, which was whether or not Peter Parker was sort of kind of a murderer of the burglar. Because she comes right out and kind of says that to him. Like right here, she says, like with that other guy, and she's like, you know, I know you said that he fell, and I'm not accusing you, but obviously she kind of is too, you know?
Right.
And I think it's weird that they decided to come back and actually call attention to that.
Yeah,
especially
that's really strange.
Especially because, like I said, as this goes along, with the black costume, we're gonna find that if you just take all his inhibitions away, well, if you take anybody's inhibitions away, I guess maybe they would just kill people. I guess there's that. But I'm just saying that like there is a part of him that is capable of that.
Yeah, exactly.
And the only reason that he doesn't have to deal with any consequences, the fact that he actually attempts to kill people in this movie, is because he gets lucky that they don't die, and he never feels any kind of remorse for it. That her bringing that up makes that 10 times worse.
Right.
I think.
Because at least if the film didn't call attention to itself, you know, saying that Peter Parker's a murderer, maybe we could just say, hey, this is a problem, and the film doesn't realize it.
Well, that's the thing is that I could never really tell if the film realized what it was doing. And again, we'll get to those scenes because boy, they bug me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you know, retroactively changing an origin like that, so we've got to overcomplicate that while we already have too many characters we're trying to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
I get why they're doing it. I'm sympathetic to a point because you do want to make your main, especially your main villain, somehow have a personal connection to your hero if you can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you always have to do that, but
right.
you know, like I don't think that it always has to be like they're connected to your past or whatever. That can get really, really formulaic.
Yeah.
but you need to make it somehow personal for the hero. The conflict that he has with the villain, so that you have both an internal and an external conflict. Once again, here it thinks that it's a formula, so it simply changes the origin so that he has that.
I think a good way to connect them personally, just on an emotional level, would be if they hadn't done the Aunt May being sick plot in the first movie. You could have had a parallel there where Peter's sort of rushing around trying to get Aunt May her medicine, take care of her and stuff. Well, Sandman's trying to do the same thing, but he's just misguided about his methods and stuff. Caring
Absolutely.
for a loved one.
Right, you connect them emotionally rather than
exactly.
historically.
Yeah, through plot points.
So I think that this shot looks really, really cool.
It does. I mean, the costume.
Where he looks at himself in the window. I love that.
Yeah. And this is pretty indicative of a scene from the animated series. It happens in the comics too, but I always think of that scene from the animated series where he just wakes up over the city at night and is just looking at his reflection in the window.
The score here is really cool. I like how it's slightly Tim Burton, you know. It's kind of like it's weird. It's like dark whimsical. I don't like the black costume.
Me either. It's too similar to the red suit for my tastes. It's just the red suit with a different color palette. I don't need the comic book suit with the giant white spider. I do.
No, I'm kidding. It doesn't have to have that. But Venom kind of has it. I mean, it's not white, but he had why couldn't they have at the very least given him that symbol?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that is cool about the symbol with the black suit on here, which Shades was telling me about and I didn't even realize, was that if you look at the symbol for the black costume, it's a spider with its front legs curled up. And I guess when a spider dies, that's what happens to its front legs. They curl up. And
that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then when Eddie Brock gets the symbiote, the legs straighten out, saying that it's alive, which I thought was interesting. Just with the symbols, they put that much detail into it.
Well, it's like symbolizing that Peter Parker is now dead inside, and that's why bad things happen. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. No, that's great. The other thing I don't like about the costume is that it looks like a chocolate bunny, and it makes me hungry. I want a hollow chocolate Spider-Man now.
I may have eaten one of those back in the day.
See, look at it. It looks like chocolate.
Yeah, it does.
More so when he's wearing it, but... See,
especially when it's done with CGI, I can definitely see.
Well, and with the light bouncing off of it the way it does, see,
Yeah.
doesn't that make you want some milk chocolate?
It does.
Let's eat some chocolate Spider-Man.
We should have rated the Halloween candy before doing
We totally should have.
This comic.
I don't know. I got a bucket not too far away from me, actually. I'm thinking about going over there. So see, it's trying so hard to mesh all these things together. It's like, oh, and now he just happens to see the Sandman. Like really, there are so many bizarre plot contrivances in this movie.
Well, I think to be fair, he was listening on the radio for the Sandman to show up and heard about him, and that's why he's there, right?
Well, yeah, okay, so he's in the area, but boy, he found him quick.
Well, I mean, like, he was listening to the police reports, and they were saying there was a robbery at a specific address related to the Sandman.
Okay, well, never mind. I rescind that one.
But Eddie Brock being there.
More. Oh, yeah, okay, there you go. Well, you got one of the same scene there.
Because there's no way a press person would have found out about a crime scene before the police. You see them pulling up as he's taking pictures.
I really don't love what the black costume says about Peter Parker in this movie.
Yeah.
And the reason is because I feel like we need, especially by the third film, I feel like we need a protagonist here who is able to, at some point, go against these feelings of revenge that he has.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want to see the guy who, I mean, this is the way that you make this guy sympathetic. You want to see the guy get right to the edge, and then figure out how to rip that costume off and become himself again just before he does something he's going to regret.
Right, exactly. And that's what all of the great Spider-Man dark-toned stories that were told in the 80s when the black suit was prominent were all about. You know, some of my favorite 80s Spider-Man stuff that Peter David did in the 80s were all about, you know, Spider-Man coming to the line where he might have to kill someone to solve a problem and him pulling back.
I like the idea of him having this dark side. I like the idea, I mean, it's okay that the suit is bringing it out in him,
right.
But he needs to get to the edge, not go over it. And once again, at the end of the scene, as far as he knows, he has killed the Sandman.
Yeah, he tells Aunt May himself that Spider-Man killed the Sandman. Like,
I lose all respect for the script as soon as that happens.
Yeah, me too. Because Peter Parker's not a guy, I mean, that I want to see killing people.
And I'm not convinced that the movie really knows it's doing it. I mean, yeah, it draws attention to that thing from the first movie, like we said, and it even has him saying that he thought he killed someone.
Yeah.
But I think that it's working too much on movie logic. I think that like Raimi is too close to this, and in his mind, or maybe in you know the writer's mind, whatever it was, it's like, well, this is the main villain for this movie. You know he's not dead.
Right.
That doesn't make it okay. I mean, like...
No, not at all. I mean, I feel like Peter...
in the movie shouldn't know they're in a comic book.
Yeah, I feel like if this was properly written Peter Parker, if this happened and he thought Sandman died, he would be thinking about how he failed Uncle Ben and how his entire, you know, how he's been living his life up to this point is mute because when it stepped over the line, he vowed never to cross and everything like that. But he, acts satisfied about it. Yeah, well, he says good riddance, man. I mean, like you know, you could just argue, yeah, and then he's got to make it silly by pulling the hair down and all that. I mean, like, you know, you could make the argument, well, he's wearing that suit that takes away his inhibitions. He's not himself right now. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I hate these he's not himself plots because it says nothing. But it tells us nothing. If he's not responsible for these actions, why do I care that they're happening? Right, exactly. At this point, it's just filling time so that we can see Tobey Maguire get to be evil, or at the very least, emo. Right. Exactly. And I want to say a quick thing about Mr. Dickovich before we go on that Shades told me about that's interesting. His name, Dickovich, is spelled D-I-T-K-O and then Vich. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. That's cool. So he's Steve Ditkovich. Yes. Well, assuming I doubt his first name is Steve. That would be cool, though. I just thought that was a cool little nod because a lot of people forget to acknowledge Ditko when they talk about Spider-Man. I like some of the details in his apartment. I like how
like old-fashioned all of his technology is. Like, he's got a really old monitor sitting there and a really old-looking printer.
Yeah, he does.
That's cool.
The dramatic look down at my shirt scene.
You got to have that. Okay, look, he was able to take it off.
Yes.
So he took it off. Okay, I never noticed this, dude. He took it off. Now he goes to Aunt May.
And is satisfied about the fact that he killed Sandman.
Yeah, they've lost it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
With this character, it's like this does not seem like the same person from 2 at this point.
Right, and that's not even us projecting comic book Peter Parker sensibilities on this character.
No,
like,
I don't think it's. Yeah, I don't think it's consistent with the other movies.
Right. Exactly. I agree with you 100%.
And I mean, like, Aunt May was always used in this role to help him realize who, remind him who he is. We're too late now, guys.
Yeah.
And then, of course, at the end of the film, he's gonna talk about making choices.
Yeah, I think he's made a choice here that he can't go back on. I think he's a different person now.
Yeah,
you can't remind him of the person who he used to be and get him to that point at the end where he's made a choice where he can't go back.
Wouldn't it be interesting to have a movie like that where, like, and I'm sure this has been done, where like, you have a character that thinks they've killed people and they've crossed a line and they don't know how they can ever be themselves again, and then, like, they find out that the person they killed isn't really dead, so, like, the only way they can get their old selves back is to, reconcile that with that person?
I think that would have been an interesting reason for the why Peter let Sandman go at the end if they went that way. That would have made sense.
Yeah, and I don't think it's really there.
No, not at all. I think the movie thinks it's there.
Yeah, but that becomes much more about just Peter Parker having to forgive him for killing his uncle.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I think at that point they should just be even. I think it'd be like, well, you killed my uncle, but I sort of killed you. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to be crass about it, but I mean, it's.
That's what it is, though.
Why are we not bringing that up?
Yeah. And we see Mary Jane come full circle, getting a waitressing job, just like she did in the first movie.
Well, she deserves it, though.
Yeah, she does. And now she's gonna go be a tease with Harry Osborn.
The biggest reason that these sorts of things drive me crazy, and the reason I keep talking about it with Mary Jane, is that when you get popular movies like this that make so much money, I really feel like young people look up to characters that are popular like this.
They do.
They're supposed to be the heroes in a story, and they feel justified if they act shallow and they act selfish, and they expect their friends or their boyfriend or their girlfriend or whoever to just, like, read their minds and always understand how they feel about everything without actually having good communication skills. And I think that's damaging.
I think so too. That's a very good point. I've heard
these movies, absolutely leave an impact on people.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that about Twilight. About
don't get me started there.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm not going to blame Spider-Man 3 for Twilight.
No, definitely not. That's not what I was saying either.
What I'm going to say is I think that there is a history of these sorts of things that lead up to the absurdity of something like Twilight.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, I would have never 10 years ago thought that I would see a movie like that people took seriously, where people acted like that towards each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it was deemed okay.
Yeah.
Really bothers me. Especially a movie that's for teenagers.
Yeah, I mean...
And I'm not going to apologize for my feelings on that film.
Oh, no, I wouldn't either. One of the things that I connected with so much when I was reading the old Spider-Man stuff was how authentic the relationships were, and how Peter had to have good communication skills or the relationships deteriorated. Like, when he first met Gwen and Harry, they hated him because he would blow them off all the time and wouldn't talk to them.
Okay, so we're back. Of course, you guys don't know that we left. Basically, we lost our internet connection and we're back. So you're probably going to be a couple seconds before or ahead of us. We'll do our best to rig this up right. But anyway, right now, just so that you can rid yourself where we are, we're right at Harry Osborn figuring out that he's getting all of his memories back and avenge me, avenge me. Well, you have to like the fact that at least that's in this movie, right?
Yeah, anything with Dafoe being Norman Osborn is good in my book, so that's cool. I like that they got Dafoe to come back for all of the films. Yep. That was really cool of him.
And Uncle Ben, too.
Yeah. Dafoe's one of those actors that I didn't expect to sort of, be in all of them, though. Like, I could see Cliff Robertson coming back for all of them, but Dafoe is sort of a distinguished actor, and, when I've seen him in interviews and stuff, he seems like he's careful about the roles he picks.
Oh, yeah, sure. First we attack his heart. I guess that makes sense on a superficial level.
Finish it! Finish it! See, we could just finish this commentary by yelling Dafoe lines.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
And quoting other things other people say about Dafoe, like those horrible yellow eyes.
That sounds like a great idea. Here comes the goblin, no, I'm the spider.
There's actually a cut of Spider-Man on YouTube that's just Dafoe's scenes. It's awesome.
Yeah, I've seen it. Shane sent me that.
It's so funny.
So here's Ursula.
Yeah, it's
Little Mermaid.
It's sort of weird that they try to make her Little Mermaid.
I guess Ursula's not the Little Mermaid. I guess she would be the villain.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said.
Unfortunate Peter.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But it's sort of weird that they give her a bigger role in this when they already have so many characters going on here.
Well, but we need someone to give him baked goods while he's talking on the phone.
Go make some cookies.
That has to happen. Man, I'm at a place right now where I'm like, I don't even care about what's going on screen now. Because he got his memories back, and I thought he had them the whole time.
Yeah.
And so, really, he got amnesia just to be taken out of the movie so that some other things could happen. Like, that's how we're going to juggle everything in this movie? There's so much going on? I mean, like, really, this is the dictionary definition of too much going on. When you have to give a character amnesia just so that you can put them somewhere for a while. I mean, like, that's like taking Cyclops out of all the X-Men movies bad.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, like it almost would have been better if we'd killed him off right at the beginning. It would have been disappointing, considering that we built him up as a big villain, but it almost would have made more, it's like, wouldn't that have been great, too? Like, we build him up for 2 movies. Oh, you killed my father, and then, like, I'm gonna kill you, Peter, and then, like, he just throws his ring up, and he, like, hits it in his head, and then he falls down and he dies, and then that's it, just to take him out of the movie.
Yeah, maybe Harry should have been the one that Peter killed, but conveniently didn't kill.
Dan, I always like a protagonist more when he shows complete and utter desperation to his girlfriend. That's good.
Yeah.
Just the way he cries in this scene drives me crazy. Like or hate Tobey Maguire, I don't know if this was Raimi's idea or what, but I do not like this performance right now.
Yeah, Tobey Maguire has a lot of weird facial expressions. I've seen hilarious pictures of him, like, running on beaches and stuff. They're, like, some of the most hysterical photos ever. And he does that in the Spider-Man films quite a bit as well, and it always sort of takes me out. The way Dunst played that scene, too, she didn't really seem like she was all that broken up about Peter, breaking up with her and stuff. She was sort of, like, yelling at him and stuff.
Again, maybe we would care more about that if they had a, stable relationship.
Right.
They go on that bridge like that, and, I mean, like, it seemed like she was going to break up with him anyway.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, I'm being forced to, because I don't know. That's so weird, right? Let's have this love triangle with maybe.
It's a quadrangle now because we get Harry, Gwen, Peter, and Mary Jane involved.
That's a good point. I was going to say, with like maybe Amnesian Osborn here, and then it's so clunky, right? It's like okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have this triangle where she goes back to him just as a rebound thing, and then we'll give him his memory back just when she was about to be with him anyway, and make him force the breakup. What?
Yeah, that's way more complicated than it needs to be.
It's not just more complicated, it's redundant and pointless.
Yeah.
Like if I had been Osborn, I wouldn't have done that. I would have at that point pretended I never had amnesia.
See, it would have been awesome if
they were about to kiss, dude.
Yeah, it would have been awesome if he was, like you said, had his memories the whole time, and you find out that he was manipulating Mary Jane and...
See, I would have loved that.
And getting Peter at his heart.
I know. His heart! I know she was, like, violator. I know she was like walking off like, oh, I can't do this and all that, but really, he could have finessed that relationship to happen. She's superficial enough, it wouldn't have been that hard.
Right, I mean, we have evidence that she sort of wanted to go back to him anyway, like you said, so...
And considering the fact that they never had any chemistry together at all, that's another thing that makes her kind of unsympathetic, I think.
Yeah, I think Franco and Dunst have...
Oh, there it is. So good. That pie. It's so good.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead. I love that.
I like that scene, too. And when he winks, especially.
Oh, there it is. Oh, I love that.
but I think Franco and Dunst have more chemistry than McGuire and Dunst do.
That was... yes, I agree with you. Oh, I guess just that they, in the first movie, like, they don't have any chemistry in that, like, he is always, like, trying to force her to do things, and...
Yeah, but really, in that kitchen scene, I think they had great chemistry.
I agree with you. But it's also bizarre because at the time you're not real sure if he has amnesia or not.
Right.
Or at least I wasn't. When Osborn disappears there, that's always strange. Like a bus or something passes, and I don't know if you noticed it, but there's this guy sitting behind him
mm-hmm.
who like looks over his shoulder, like, where did that guy go? It's pretty strange.
Goblin Jr. powers going on there.
Goblin Jr. powers. You know, I think that would have almost been a better name than New Goblin.
The action figures say Goblin Jr.
Goblin Jr. And then if he had a son, it'd be Goblin the Third.
Goblin the Third. They just introduced Normie.
Yeah. How completely cliche is this, Dan, that he's got to be drinking a martini? Rich people drink martinis.
Shaken, not stirred, of course.
That
is pretty stereotypical, but
it's always that stereotypical thing that movies have to do where they're like rich people always drink martinis. Usually, different rich people have different things they like. There's a lot of expensive drinks, and martinis aren't that expensive.
Right. I mean, we saw him drinking like scotch and stuff in the previous films, and we even saw him drinking other stuff before, straight from the bottle. So.
For the record, by the way, I love olives and I love martinis.
Oh, yeah?
I just want to throw that out there. They're very tasty. And I'm not like a rich person, so you can drink martinis. Like, martinis are just something that you drink if you like them and you like alcohol and stuff.
Right. I never thought this fight scene was all that great. Not even just the context of it. I think it's kind of lame.
Well, we've already seen these guys fight in a way better fight scene that was much more about something, because right now it's just watching. Well, I'm gonna say it, and I know I always go here, but it's a standard Smallville fight. It's really, I mean, it's two characters that are completely out of character. They're basically both on something.
Yeah, and this is basically, like you were saying, we already saw these two people fight before. It's just a smaller scale fight of the one that they opened the film with.
Except that it's going to end with him thinking he killed him.
Right.
Just like Sandman. One of the things I can never forgive this movie for is that the place where they most play up the black costume for comedy comes after we think he's killed 2 people.
Yeah, that's really weird.
This thing isn't just badly paced, it's badly organized.
Yeah, you would have... But I feel like if you put that before he kills people, that would have been weird, too.
Well, I don't think there's anywhere that scene...
Right.
It's not
Fair enough.
a good place for that to go. I guess the one thing I can say for this scene, I don't know, I mean, there's a couple fun lines here. I sort of like him, calling him Goblin Jr.
Yeah, when he goes, ooh.
Oh, ooh. Yeah, but I guess at least they have some dialogue.
Yeah.
In the scene. But again, it's like watching 2 people on something fighting.
Yeah, and then we see the pumpkin bomb that will kill Venom at the end of the movie and disintegrate him just scrape Harry's face.
That's a good point.
And not completely blow his head off.
So now we just have this goofy montage that we're supposed to be laughing at right after we think he's killed not 1 but 2 people.
Yeah, and he continues to be, like, someone that's completely not likable either.
I don't know why this is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
It's like they're trying to mesh, like, the fun of old school Spider-Man tone with, like, dark Spider-Man tone. And it's not working.
You know, Spider-Man 2 had a lot of really light moments, but it was able to get away with them because it didn't have these darker themes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that there was, like, I mean, you know, there was plenty to latch on to in that movie, but that's not a dark film.
No, it's not. This one, I would say, attempts to be, majoritively.
But it really should have been because...
Yeah, it should have been.
Because it goes... Well, like I said, it goes places it shouldn't have gone in the first place, and especially if it's going to have these weird comedy scenes thrown in the middle.
Yeah.
Like I always say, you can't just put in comedy scenes and then say, okay, now my movie has levity. It doesn't work that way. Like, they still have to fit within the tone. You still have to set a tone for your film.
Right.
You know, you can't just say, okay, I've got a dark tone, but then I throw in some weird comedy scenes, and now I have, you know, okay, it's a dark movie, but it feels more real because people have, you know, joking things like they do in real life. That's not what we have here.
Right. See, Eddie Brock's plan in this movie doesn't really make much sense to me to get famous. Like, how did Jameson not notice that was a photo that was already published in his paper?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Like, it's almost identical, just with the back... It is identical, just with the background and the suit color change. Like, even Robbie here, he, like, looks all astonished and everything. But he...
Yeah, I don't get it with Robbie. I can almost buy it with Jameson,
yeah.
Because I don't think Jameson pays that much attention to what goes in his newspaper.
Yeah, that's true.
Really, I mean, like, he'll look at a photo for 2 seconds and go, crap.
Especially if it incriminates Spider-Man.
Right, you know, as long as it looks like it's incriminating Spider-Man.
He'll take it. And how did Brock, like, not expect Peter to call him out on that? That's the thing I'm thinking, too. Like, he acts like he never, like, that's something that he didn't expect to happen.
Would you explain something else to me? Because maybe I just missed this.
Sure.
Why does Jameson feel like he has to print a retraction?
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like, because he always wants to incriminate Spider-Man. I mean, like, that's never changed.
Right, and he slanders him all the time anyway.
Slanders him all the time, and he says, I haven't printed a retraction in 20 years. So why? Just because you have to be consistent with the staff photographer that you just fired? Like, why don't you just fire him and not print a retraction? I don't understand.
Yeah. That's a good point as well.
I never thought of that until just now. I have some nuts. I can make some. Go ahead. Go make some. What was that, Doc Connors, about this suit that's making me do an emo walk? I'm not paying attention because I have cookies.
That smile he makes at her, there's still shots of that, and I see it used as a meme on the internet all the time, and it makes me laugh.
This cracks me up, but not in a good way, Dan.
Yeah, this is the fan service Betty Brant thing, because they never really had Betty Brant and Peter together in... Well,
I just meant the walk thing, but yes, I agree with you.
Yeah. Oh, I think you might be a few seconds behind me then, because...
No, I was already at the Brant thing when I said that.
Okay.
I just like the whole, just this whole montage. I'm laughing at this whole montage, but not in a good way.
Right. It's just like, what is going on?
And then, like, did he really just get Jameson to double the money for the staff job?
Yeah, and then he got away with sitting at Jameson's desk.
Like, just because he's acting like he's acting?
Yeah.
Then he's, like, snapping at people. I just can't even. I want to do this. If I ever go to New York City, Dan, I'm going to do that. I'm going to put on that exact...
of suit shops.
Yes, I'm going to... that exact place, if that exists. And I'm going to put that exact outfit on and see if anybody gets it. And then I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to cut him out wearing what he's wearing right there. You know, even this is weirdly Smallville. Like, when Clark Kent puts on red kryptonite, one of the first things he does is he goes and puts on a black suit.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And then he goes into Lex's office, and Lex tells him that he didn't know that a $2,000 coat came with a backbone.
That's an awesome line.
That's a good line.
Lex.
I must say, I think I like the Red Kryptonite episodes better than this movie. By actually quite a bit. Oh look, Sandman's not actually dead. You're playing for menacing, when what it really should be doing, I suppose, is going, see, Spider-Man's not a murderer. Okay, he has a daughter, we got it!
Oh, I never noticed that they showed that again. Wow,
yeah, look, we got it, okay? He's motivated by his daughter, and he's also motivated by the fact that he's now alive again.
The fact that they have to keep reminding us about that, like there's enough space between the scenes with him in this movie where they feel like they have to remind people, that's a problem.
Yeah, that is a problem. But even with as many bazillions of subplots in this movie, even though we are doing the Dark Phoenix saga at the same time as Days of Future Past, if you will, I still think the first time I saw this, I was going, okay, we get it. It's a locket with your... we get it.
Yeah, like, as soon as he did the scene with... we were talking about before, right, when he got his powers and he was grasping at the locket, that should have been the end of it.
Wow, I love that according to this movie, if you give an attractive-looking waitress enough money, you can get away with calling her hot legs.
And get a seat to boot.
Yeah, wow. That girl needs a $2,000 dress that will come with a backbone.
Yeah. And here we have Gwen Stacy and her infinite shallowness going on here.
Yeah, once again, I am not going to go as far as to even say that she is shallow. I'm going to say that that's not a character on screen. That is a cardboard cutout that is making plot things happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it just frustrates me that I like comic book Gwen so much. I don't know.
But I don't think she's Gwen Stacy is the thing.
Right,
I think they took a character and named her that, and she looks okay, but that's about it. She's not that. That's not that character.
Right, I don't know. It just doesn't really make sense to me that she was in Peter's class, and he helped her with stuff, and she's also attracted to Spider-Man, but doesn't know they're the same person and, like, instantly gets all touchy-feely with him in this scene.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's just weird.
And again, we're wasting a lot of time right now.
Yeah, we are.
On stuff that, at least personally, I don't care about. Because, I mean, I can't talk about this movie without just being a broken record, Dan.
I just noticed when he was just doing all those fancy moves, he did the Spider-Man pose.
Oh, that was smart. I wish that the suit could just become clothes in this like it does in the comics.
That would be cool. Absolutely.
Plus, that would have helped that problem we had earlier with he takes off the suit and he's still out of character.
Yeah.
You know, why doesn't he just have it on all the time? And if he was able to take it off after he had worn it for a decent amount of time, why does he have such a hard time getting it off later in the church?
Right, exactly. Because he doesn't even... It doesn't seem like, at least in this movie, that he doesn't wear it for a long enough time for it to bond with him. Like,
right.
And, well, I mean, maybe I'm just projecting what I know with the comics here, but...
Yeah, but there's precedence for that even in the movie because Doc Connors warns him about bonding.
Right, that's true. But if you take it off, wouldn't that hinder it? I don't know.
You know what just occurred to me?
Yeah.
The girl, what's the name of the girl playing Gwen in this?
Bryce Dallas Howard.
She looks like a young Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, she kind of does. Like Mask Cameron Diaz?
Mask Cameron Diaz. Maybe even a couple years younger than that.
Yeah. That's a great comparison. I never thought of that before. She kind of does.
It's not important, but there it is.
She's also the daughter of Ron Howard as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I wonder what Ron Howard would have done with a Spider-Man film.
I don't know. That might have been interesting.
He generally seems to be more into like biopics and things. I'm not sure if he would have ever done a superhero film.
Yeah, he could do a Stan Lee biopic. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. I kind of hope somebody down the road does a Stan Lee biopic. That'd be really cool.
I think somebody will, or at least do a movie about the origins of Marvel.
Yeah, sure.
That would be really fun. Did you hear that? This is kind of off topic, but did you hear that Jack Kirby is in Argo? Like, there's somebody cast as him.
I heard about that. Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
As soon as I heard that, I instantly wanted to go see it.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense given that property.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Kirby's actually
know anything
involved
about it
with that
until I looked
movie,
it up.
so.
He was, yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And here we have...
Yeah, so
oh,
now he's just immediately going to go to this church. Explain to me how he even thinks to go there. I don't get it. I mean, like, again, this movie is expecting that its audience already knows everything that's going on. Because, like you and I might not think about it the first time around because we might just go, oh, yes, of course, he's going to the church. He has to do that, right? Yeah. But if you don't know anything, or even if you do and you're actually thinking and you're not just being fanboys, you might say, oh, I don't know. Why would Spider-Man just randomly go to a church? It's not like he knows that the suit is affected by noise.
Right. I mean,
there's no precedence for this.
The only thing I could think of was he told Brock to get religion before. Maybe he's taking his own advice, but even that's a stretch.
That's a huge stretch. Now, we need to talk about Brock a little bit, because I actually like some things about this characterization of Brock, at least in the context of a very strange film. I like that Brock walks in here, and it's happening right now, where we are in the film. I like that Brock walks into this church, and he says, "Dear God, please kill Peter Parker." That really cracks me up. It is kind of fun, too, that they follow up Get Religion within going to church saying, kill Peter Parker.
Yeah. And
it's just so over the top. Like, it's so fun. But isn't it also a giant contrivance that they're both in the church at the same time?
Yeah, and it's also a giant contrivance. I was just going to mention, did you see everyone in the church walking out of it in the background?
For no good reason.
Yeah.
This movie's not concerned with things like that. It's more concerned with making sure that all the playing pieces get where they need to go at certain points.
Yes.
And even where the playing pieces go at certain points, I'm not entirely sure what predetermined that sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure what the predestination is. Again, with things like earlier, what's the point of having a rebound thing with Mary Jane and Osborn if he's going to just, like, force her to do things once he gets his memory back?
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that I thought was weird about this scene is we have Brock transforming into Venom here, getting the symbiote. Peter Parker is weak and unable to fight up on the top of the bell tower. Brock and the symbiote both know he's there. They both hate him. Why doesn't he go kill him?
That's a really good point. Because he knows he's up there.
Yeah.
By the way, how does he know he's up? I mean, he looks up and just says Parker.
Yeah.
Like, tell from where he's standing. And look, it might sound like we're nitpicking, but if you're watching this with us right now, really, someone explain that to me.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is Tobey Maguire as a kind of distinctive voice, but...
I really think that this shot right here tells you everything you need to know about like the pacing of this film. Like, all at one time, it's like he's getting it. It hurts. It's bothering him. He doesn't know what it is. Boom, he's bit him.
Yeah.
Boom, there it is.
It would have been really interesting to get into the head of that character when that was going on, you know? Or at least, like, get some dialogue from him later on talking about, you know, what it feels like to have that thing on. We never even get that from Peter, really.
Although he's a cartoon character now that he said, "Dear God,
this is
please
true.
Kill Peter Parker."
He should have a mustache to be twisting.
That's absolutely right.
Peter Parker's door cracks me up.
I love that this is a plot point that he's being followed up on.
Yeah. Rosemary Harris is so great. Like, even when she's not given anything, she's able to somehow make it vaguely Aunt May-like, like in this movie. It's fantastic.
You know, Dan, I just thought of something.
Yeah?
I think that we can explain away at least a good portion of the plot contrivances
Yeah.
by a theory of predestination. You see, what I think is that perhaps Eddie Brock really was like Catholic before this, and that he has this personal relationship with God, and that God, he may or may not realize this, but God actually sent the symbiote to Earth to go to him so that he could kill Peter Parker with it.
So now the symbiote's a religious entity.
Yes.
Yay.
Although, I don't really know what it means that Peter wins in the end.
Right.
So maybe it kind of falls apart there.
But this movie's funny. See, what's interesting about Spider-Man 3 is I read the novelization of this movie before it came out as a kid. And do you know who did the novelization?
Peter David.
Yes, he did.
He's done a lot of these.
Yeah, and he is no schlock. You know what I mean?
What did he add? Like, did he do anything to make it better?
I don't remember any of it because I was so young when I read it, but I want to reread it now to see, because he did all the Transformers movies as well. And you wouldn't think you'd be able to salvage anything good out of those.
Well, just because it's Peter David doesn't mean that they did. I haven't read them.
Well, I mean, I'm saying, like, Peter David's a talented guy, and he's not going to, like, do projects that are unsalvageable, you know what I mean?
Well, I'm not going to go that far. I mean, like, I love Peter David. I think he's a great writer, but I've never read any of his novelizations.
Oh, okay.
He is really prolific and does a whole lot of stuff, and he might do something like that just for a paycheck. I mean, like, he might write them as good as they can possibly be, but he can't change very much. The movie's the movie, you know.
Right, I don't know. I mean, there's places where I think you could fix the majority of the problems just by getting into a character's head and maybe giving them a better motivation for doing the things that they're doing at certain points, you know?
I agree with you, yeah. Yeah, no, it can be done.
And I think,
but I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I want to see if he's able to pull it off or not.
And now, Dan, the final insult. The pointless supervillain team-up that never pays off.
Yeah.
We got two villains in a movie. We better have them randomly meet by happenstance and team up just so that they can all fight in the same scene.
Yeah, and where are Sandman's...
And kill one off and keep the other one alive.
Yeah, and
that has to happen.
Where are Sandman's motivations at that point?
I don't know, because all we've seen is Peter Parker kill him, he thought, and, well, as Spider-Man, kill him, we thought, and then him coming back and holding a locket. So, apparently now he's getting revenge based on trying to save his daughter.
Yeah, like, before it was getting money to save his daughter, and now he hates Spider-Man because he dumped a bunch of water on him and he survived. Like,
I guess.
Like, I don't get it.
Why is he going to waste his time with this?
Right, exactly. Like, go do crap for your daughter, man.
Yeah, so at this point, he's just a big, giant special effect.
Exactly. Oh, and here we have the news report, and we're going to see the cool 90s Spider-Man font in the web.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. I like it.
I always I don't know, 90s Spider-Man aesthetics make me smile.
Well, I like them. They're cool.
Yeah, me too.
I think Todd McFarlane did a lot visually for that character.
Venom?
No, for Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, yeah, definitely.
Through the 90s. I mean, like, I think maybe I'm going too far, but when you look at like the webbing, when you look at some of the dynamic poses that McFarlane was doing, I think even going as far as that font, I think a lot of that was influenced by what he did on the book.
I'd say so too. If you look at, it's especially interesting to look at Michelinie and McFarlane's run, like right after McFarlane leaves and Michelinie gets a new artist. It's basically the new guy coming on doing McFarlane.
Wouldn't him picking up the red and blue suit be a much bigger deal if the suit looked a lot different?
Yeah, it would be.
I mean, I don't mean to make a big deal out of it, but I find that a bit lazy.
Yeah, I do too.
And again, you know, if you look at the special features on this disc, they kind of make a big deal out of how cool they think the suit is, if I remember right, and like putting it together and stuff. And I'm like, guys, you pretty much just made it a different color.
I know, yeah. That's what I was saying before. That's why it disappointed me so much. Was because that's one of the things that has always distinguished the black costume from the red one, is because it looks so different. Yeah, I mean, you got the eyes, but that's about it.
Hey, Dan, would you put that picture of Norman Osborn in your house? Because I think I would.
Maybe.
I think I would put that in my game room.
That would be pretty awesome. I wonder if you can buy a print of that. That'd be kind of a creepy photo to have, though.
Okay, let's talk about Osborn here for a second. Yes. Because his father was not able to get over the multiple personality problem that he had when he got the serum.
Yes.
And he is going to have a light switch moment here pretty soon, after he's been on that serum.
Yeah, as soon as...
Is that a problem for you?
Yeah, that is kind of strange. I never really thought about that. I was always just so fed up with this butler explanation here. That was the main thing that bothered me in this scene, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, of course there's that, again, there's that joke from How It Should Have Ended. Why the heck didn't you just tell me this when it happened?
Yeah, exactly.
Why have you been, like, you've known this the whole time?
Yeah. That was the main thing that was bothering me. But that's just adds further insult to injury here.
Like, he's just gonna have a light switch moment, and then he's gonna like fly around and call him pal and buddy and stuff. And
see, I'd be even sort of angry that my face got screwed up because you threw a grenade at it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, everything is so oversimplified in this. Yeah. And once again, we got mostly the same people working on this that were working on Spider-Man 2. I really think that this is 100% because of juggling too much stuff. And that's it. All they had to do was rip some out, and the things they decided to keep in, they could have, they could have had a great deal more depth and more more believability.
Yeah, I think Venom should have been the thing to have taken out.
But keep the black costume?
Yeah, keep the black costume. You could do that. Maybe have Sandman as the main villain if that's what Raimi wanted to do. And then you could even save Harry for later on too. I mean, if they were able to make Sandman compelling, not use this Sandman, the one in this movie, as the main villain. He would not be able to carry his own movie. But if they made him compelling enough.
Yeah, forgetting Raimi's, what I think is a strange fascination with Sandman, I think that they should have even paired it more, further down than that. Keep in mind that Spider-Man 2, and again, I think that's a great movie.
Yeah.
Had one villain, and the supporting cast was all the same supporting cast from the first film. Mm-hmm. Spider-Man 3. With what we're given here, ought to have been maybe black costume, mm-hmm. and Harry Osborn as the villain. That's all you needed.
Yeah, that's
what I think.
Yeah.
I don't think we needed any of the rest of any of this stuff.
Well, I think maybe you could have introduced Eddie Brock if you wanted to do Venom in the next one.
I think you would have had to have introduced Brock
Right.
if you wanted to. Yeah, fair enough. So no, maybe not exactly the same supporting cast. Okay, you're right about that. But villain-wise, you just need the one, and I don't think you're right that you would have wanted to save him for 4 because of what they set up in 2.
Yeah, that's true. You would need to want to. That is fair.
What would you have done with him in this movie? He would have just been sitting around waiting to be Goblin.
Yeah, that's true.
He had to have been Goblin in this movie, unless you did our earlier idea, which is to kill him off in the first 15 minutes.
Oh, that would have been...
I hate that he's constantly peeling his Venom face back.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Well, it's not just weird, it's lame. I mean, you give us Venom, but you don't really give us Venom.
Yeah, the Raimi films have this weird... I mean, I kind of understand it because you want to have the actors that you paid for to have their faces on screen, but, the character demands that you wear a mask. I feel like that's part of the job, you know?
Well, I think Brock's gotten plenty of face time through this film
exactly.
already. I think once he's Venom, he can be Venom.
Yeah.
And why does he have sharp teeth when he takes his mask off? That's stupid.
Yeah, it is weird. And Venom, I don't think he ever talks when he has that mask on, does he?
No, he doesn't. And he ought to.
Yeah, saying we and stuff. That'd be awesome.
Man, I really wish they would have gone there. They don't explain anything whatsoever personality-wise about Venom. We don't know how the symbiosis works at all. Nothing.
Yeah, because we never even got that much of an explanation as to how it related to Peter either.
No. And he wore it for long enough that, again, that's what you explore, not this quadrangle thing.
Yeah.
It's just there's a lot of missed opportunities. I mean, I said that 100% of the problem in this movie is too many things being juggled at once. Mm-hmm. That's maybe not even entirely fair because there's so much time wasted even with what we have here that we have some interesting things that could have been explored.
Yeah.
With the time that they wasted on other things, I'm not even gonna go that far. I mean, even with what we're given, we could have done more exploration of the interesting things, like what's it like to have this alien entity on your person, and do you have dual personalities at that point? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. If you cut out the dancing scene, the scene in the club, that could have been replaced with scenes of Peter, getting information. Maybe researching the symbiote himself, doing some science things, reminding us that he's actually smart, and finding out how the bonding works, how long he has, finding out that it's alive, and being kind of freaked out about it, because even when he finds out that it's alive, that's not in the comics. That's the reason why he gets rid of it. It's because he doesn't want a symbiote that's alive bonding with him.
Here, the reason he gets rid of it is because he hit Mary Jane in the face. Right. Now, keep in mind that at this point in the film, he thought he had killed 2 people.
Yeah.
And as you said earlier, even at a point where he's not wearing the black costume, he is okay with this fact.
Yes.
But what puts him over the edge and makes him go, oh no, I've gone too far, is he hits his girlfriend in the face.
Who, she hasn't been making a strong case as to whether or not she deserves that. No, nobody deserves that, I'm just kidding.
Okay, I'll agree with you. Sorry, go ahead.
Did you see when he was being hit by the Sandman, who doesn't have any sharp objects on his fist at all, his mask just instantly ripped? He had it, not ripped, and then the Sandman hit his fist on him once, and then it was all ripped.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. I thought it was funny.
I like how Sandman had, cement blocks and things stuck in him.
Yeah.
That's funny. So yeah, once again, like you said, Sandman has no business being here, really.
Yeah, I don't understand why he's here. Go rob a bank while Spider-Man's distracted. The only 2 superheroes in this universe, well, there's 2 superheroes now in this universe.
Kind of, sort of, I suppose, yeah. Hey, buddy, old pal. One of the things that's really disappointing about this is that the Venom face, when you see it, looks awesome.
Yeah, I think it looks cool.
And let me go on record to say, and I'm sure some of our subscribers have seen this when I've shot stuff in our house, I have a poster of that on a wall.
Oh, yeah? Cool.
Because it's awesome!
Yeah. I just wish...
And it's just a big face. In fact, Dan, I used to have that on my refrigerator.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that was pretty great. People would come over and they would be afraid to open my refrigerator.
That's
Because it was just this giant Venom face that I use magnets. Oh, and here comes the camera. Okay, this is a great joke.
Yes, it is.
When J. Jonah Jameson pays this little girl $100 for a camera with no film.
I actually forgot about this gag. I take back what I said about the pill one before. This is my favorite one.
Yeah, well, just compared to the pill thing, this could have been in either of the other two movies.
Yeah,
it's hilarious. May I also mention, once again, we've got this weird connection to the whole "I'll give you 100" thing from the first movie.
Oh yeah,
because you had that whole thing where he was supposed to get like $3,000 for 3 minutes, but he only got 100 because he pinned him in two. And then J. Jonah Jameson has to pay this little girl the exact same amount. I think that's funny.
Yeah, that is funny.
For that, I give you 100.
Yeah. See, the frustrating thing for me about this scene with Harry and Spider-Man teaming up is that the story in the comics where they have to team up is so good that it's disappointing that this was adapted so poorly. Like, the reason Harry teams up with Peter in the story that's in the comics is that's actually when he dies. Peter's life is in danger, and Harry sort of snaps out of his psychosis at the last minute, goes and saves him and sacrifices his own life for Peter. And he kind of does that here, but it's so corny.
Well, there's too much of these scenes because they're working so fast to get all this done. Once again, 20 minutes longer than your average superhero film.
Yeah.
And they're constantly telling us how we're supposed to feel.
Yeah.
Go, buddy, go get him, go. Oh, they're friends now. Okay. Yay, they're friends now. Never mind why that happened, or the fact that that there will be no consequences for the fact that he ripped his face up. I mean, like, it's not like Spider-Man is in any way whatsoever responsible for his death here. He's responsible for the death that he thought he caused earlier.
Right.
Or, I keep saying that. He didn't necessarily know that he killed Harry, but he walked away like he didn't care, right?
Right. I mean, he threw a grenade at his face.
So he certainly should have figured,
He either killed him...
And Sandman sure looked dead.
And Peter Parker just doesn't seem to care that much. Like, he's like, oh yeah, this is bigger than what's going on between you and me.
Well, at this point, Venom's just a throwaway villain that we've got to get rid of real quick.
Yeah.
Because the movie's almost over.
And that's really unfortunate. I mean, Venom isn't my absolute favorite Spider-Man villain, but I like
But he's a bigger deal than Sandman,
right.
Dude. You want him, if he's going to be set up this fast, especially this overly simplified and with no understanding whatsoever about the origin of, anything, then you don't want him to be the villain you kill off.
Right, exactly. I have to say, I have to give the Amazing Spider-Man a lot of credit for not killing the Lizard off. I hope they do Sinister Six in that franchise. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, I think that was cool, too. And regardless of how you felt about exactly how Captain Stacy died, because I wasn't a big fan of that, it was kind of cool that he died before Gwen did.
Yeah, I like that, too. And it followed the source material, so it made me happy in that way, too.
You remember the story with Stan Lee about how he had no idea that they were going to kill off Gwen Stacy?
Yeah.
And so he was like people are just going to be afraid that we have this, or are just going to think that we have this big thing against the Stacys.
Yeah. I remember.
Because it wasn't too long after they killed off Captain Stacy.
Yeah. It was, I think, issue 90 around there. Captain Stacy died in 121, 122 was the death of Gwen Stacy. So yeah,
he comes back in and picks it up on the newsstand and goes, "What?"
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You say it. You say it.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is an important emotional scene.
He's able to rip the symbiote off that he couldn't rip off 3 seconds ago.
Do we have to, like you said, corny, right? Do we have to telegraph this hard that Harry Osborn's about to die?
Yeah, it's.
I mean, he's getting beat up real hard. You got that look from Mary Jane, like, oh my God, you're probably gonna die in this scene.
Yeah, and what does his death mean? Nothing, really. I mean,
it seems like it's just wrapping up everything. You know, it's like, well, now we're friends again, so you can die. It's okay.
Yeah, it's like Harry has nothing left to do in these movies, so we'll kill him off.
I mean, I guess it's kind of trying to be self-sacrificial, but
yes.
So I guess they're trying to redeem him because he was, he did all these terrible things to Peter. But again, once you have that reveal with the butler, it's almost not his fault.
Right. I feel like Peter did many worse things to Harry than...
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he was stupidly stubborn. He should have paid attention and just listened to Peter for a minute.
Right.
But even, even him being as stubborn as he was, not paying attention to, Peter's story and giving him the benefit of the doubt is still not nearly as bad as the way Mary Jane treats him at the beginning of this.
No.
I don't think.
No. Compared to how Mary Jane treats him, Harry's a great friend.
So really, this whole part here is completely lost on me because it's like,
yeah,
Sandman was just like fighting and fighting and fighting, and Venom is dead now. And what has changed exactly? I don't understand why the fight stopped.
Me either. He's just like, oh.
I didn't. Here's his dialogue. I didn't want this. Why were you attacking him? Like, I had no choice. But why were you here?
All right, that could mean one of two things. He doesn't want to fight Spider-Man, which he agreed to follow Venom here to do that, or he didn't want Venom to die, but he's been killing people the whole movie. So, either way, it doesn't make any sense. Back to origin again. In the same movie.
Back to formula?
Rah!
Well, I will say I do kind of appreciate that we get this flashback at the end. Not that I like that they went to origin at all in this movie, but like the way that he explains what really happened makes at least a bit more sense than what we thought it was earlier in the film.
Yeah.
So at least we get that, and we get to see Uncle Ben again, because at least we want to fill out that trend where, if we're gonna have Defoe again, we better have him again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very much a parallel between Harry and Peter's characters, bringing those two back in, the father figures from their pasts. See, and my problem with this is the situation's so out of Peter's control. Like, if Sandman was smart enough to have his gun on safety at that point, if he didn't have any intentions of shooting the guy, then that whole situation could have been avoided. Peter doesn't stop the burglar, and Uncle Ben doesn't die.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It changes the whole dynamic.
Yeah.
It would have been hard to have imagined more films in this franchise after that.
Right.
Now that you say that.
It kind of destroys his entire motivation for doing what he does. But
that's true, but that seems to be what this movie is about, really. It's just, I think the best word I can use to describe it is careless. I don't think it realizes it's doing half of this stuff.
Right. I think it's desperately trying to find a personal connection between Sandman and Peter to make him relevant to this movie. Because if you take that away, like, what is his purpose in this movie? He has no purpose.
Yeah, to be a big special effect.
Right.
And Gwen's purpose is to be another pair of legs. I mean, and Venom's purpose is to be popular Venom guy. You know, we got to have him because fans like him.
But Eddie Brock as a character, like, they did more things with him than they did with Sandman. Like,
that's absolutely right.
They introduced us to him, the fact that he had a sick daughter, and that makes it okay for him to do bad things. That's all we got, right? Really.
That's it. Yeah, no, that's it. And again, why is it that Peter Parker gets to take the moral high ground there, where he's like, they treat this like he's been through this big character arc and stuff. No, he hasn't. I don't buy that. It's like, you should have had to have apologized for killing him. I don't care that he wasn't actually dead.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been funny. Oh, I'm sorry I killed you, dude.
Why is it that the ends... Well, it's not even ends justifying the means. It's ends make the... It's ends just like if it worked, like, because it's not like he was attempting to not kill them. So it's just like, if it just happened to work out, then he intended for it that way all the time.
He has Madam Web on his side. She was just cut out of the movie.
Well, you might as well throw that in. You might as well throw that in at the same time as you're doing Spider Slayers and might as well just cap this whole movie off with One More Day.
Oh God.
Just bring in Mephisto to not erase the marriage, because that hasn't happened yet, but just to erase the fact that these two characters totally hate each other but pretend like they're in love.
See, the thing about Mephisto doing that to these characters, it wouldn't bother me as much.
That's what I'm saying. That would be great.
And we're done.
You were right about this film having, decent production values. I mean, it's fun to watch. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of pretty
it's things all over the place. Yeah. Oh, it's a funeral in a superhero movie. We gotta have one of those.
Yeah. Cap it off like we did with the first one. And there's the butler who's single-handedly responsible for the death of Harry Osborn.
And significantly, Captain Stacy is there and it's not his funeral.
Yeah, why is Gwen there? Do they even know him?
I don't think they did. Well, they're in this movie, so they better be here.
Yeah.
Wow, I never thought of that. That's hilarious. Okay, hold on. We gotta listen to this terrible voiceover. It's the choices that make us who we are, and we can always choose to do what's right. What? Oh, that makes it... I mean, that's the reason that I keep going on so much about the fact that he killed two people, but he didn't really, so it's okay.
Yeah.
What choices did he make?
He made bad choices.
And I mean, he's talking... yeah, and I mean, he's talking about Harry's choices there, but, like, Harry only made that choice based on information he didn't have previously.
Yeah, see, I don't know, like...
Maybe you can interpret this as just now he's depressed because he did all these terrible things, and his character arc is he's a bad person now.
Yeah.
I just thought of that. Maybe he's not talking about himself at all. Maybe it's all about Harry.
I don't know. It's just, I think this movie gets choices that Peter makes confused with, like, how this character makes choices. I mean, like, in the second one and the first one, it's pretty clear that, like, Peter will make choices that are good intentioned, and then it kind of comes back to bite him in the end, whereas here, they're trying to give us that thing where he's making choices and they're not working out for him, but all the choices that he makes are, like, evil or bad ones.
Yeah, and because he's basically on drugs, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And now they're back together for some reason.
Kind of. I guess. Yeah.
Who knows?
I just hate these you're not really yourself stories.
I hate the fact that this relationship got a huge monkey wrench thrown in it throughout the entire movie, and then we just end with them patching it back together, pretty much, and...
Yeah, and based on what?
Yeah, and we're back to where we started. Like,
yeah. There's no resolution. It's like they're just. I guess the death of their friend kind of brings them together.
Yeah.
But
and that's consistent with That's how they start their relationship originally in the comics, is when Gwen dies, they become close.
Right.
But it sort of loses the impact here because they've already been going out for a while. I don't know.
Well, and especially because, they kind of have a lot to do with events that led up to their friend getting killed.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was, I think that whole thing at the end is supposed to be like, well, it was Harry's choice to come and help me instead of be part of a three-pronged villain team-up. So, he's... But it's such a token death. He didn't really have to die there at all.
No. I mean, I don't know what you would have had to do in future movies at all. But... Because after you do that character arc with Harry, at least classically in the source material, there's not much else that they did with him.
Sure, but couldn't you and I sit here, and I'm not saying we should, but couldn't you and I sit here and come up with 5 other ways that the very scene that we had right there could have ended with him dying and be more plausible?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
It's really lazy. I mean, it could have been a self-sacrificial death, but it just, it was too token. They spent the whole scene going, he's gonna die, watch, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, they really like to beat us over the head with stuff like that in this movie. It's sort of insulting.
Well, I guess that's the reason I keep going on about some of the same stuff, is that I feel insulted watching this film.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I have to argue at the film. I'm like, hey, movie, did you notice that Spider-Man kind of kills people in this film? Yeah, okay, so they're not dead, but that doesn't mean he didn't try really hard.
I know he has a daughter, movie. You don't have to keep telling me.
Yeah, I got it. Jeez.
And something that you made a good point about the opening credits last time we talked about this movie. I thought it was a pretty valid point when you were talking about it that I figured I'd mention now that we're going through the credits. The opening of the credits in Spider-Man 2 is all painted stuff by Alex Ross, and it looks really nice. In 2...
Yeah, I almost mentioned that, but then we got to talking about music.
Yeah. And in 3, it's just stills from all the movies or video footage.
It's video, yeah. And they did Alex Ross in both the first 2 movies.
Yeah, you were saying that it just felt kind of lazy. It kind of sets the precedent for the.
I think it does. Yeah, it sets the precedent for the whole film.
Yes,
it's like just so you know, this film will not be as good. just right out the game. We made you a Spider-Man film, but we didn't wrap it properly. It's like when you get a Christmas gift, and it's like, well, I lost your list of things you actually wanted for Christmas. I had that in my back pocket, but I accidentally washed it in the washer. So I'm gonna ask your friends what you want, and they all claim that your favorite character is Venom, so he's going in here. And we also just didn't have time to wrap it. We didn't have time. We had that really good wrapping paper, but we ran out of it with some other thing that we gave to somebody else.
Yeah.
So instead,
paper to Nick Cage and Ghost Rider.
Yeah. So instead, what we did was we just took movie posters from the last movie and we wrapped it up in that.
Did they ever do a poster for 3 where it's Spider-Man, like the eyes, and there's a villain in the reflection? Because I always liked that motif from the first 2.
I liked it too. I don't think they do that.
Oh, that's disappointing. I think it would have been awesome to have that
Which
shot.
is sad, because now that I think about it, there's actually a major Venom cover that has that.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I've seen it before.
I want to say it's like Venom with like Spider-Man freaking out in his eyes.
Yeah, I think so.
Wouldn't it be cool if they'd reversed it like that?
Ooh, that would have been really cool.
If they showed us Venom's face and then had Spider-Man's reflected in it.
Yeah, like it.
Well, like a surprise, a Spider-Man surprise face.
Yeah, that would have been really cool.
These are short credits.
You know what would have been cool? Venom eyes with Mary Jane in the pose where she's freaked out. when Venom first confronts her in McFarlane's drawing.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
Well, Dan, I guess that's Spider-Man 3.
Yeah. That was it.
Well, everybody, thanks a lot for listening to Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Dan, I felt like we were a bit brutal on this one.
Yeah, like, you said someone commented before saying that there's very few Spider-Man things we've reviewed that we've actually liked.
Oh, we loved 2, and we had many nice things to say about the first one.
Yeah.
That's true of comics.
Yeah.
And my reply to that was, well, it's not our fault. We reviewed mostly new things.
Yeah.
Like it's not our fault. I guess it's kind of our fault if we just go back and only review old bad things.
Right.
But anyway, well,
it's sort of hard to find bad old Spider-Man though. Like if you go older than the 90s.
Yeah, you're right. The quality level definitely seems to increase the further back you go.
Yeah.
Well, once again, everybody, thanks a lot for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. And Dan and I will be back with you probably pretty shortly with Amazing Spider-Man. We're actually going to review that, I think, or do a commentary on it. I think shortly after it comes out is the plan right now. And that'll be the first one that I've done on something I didn't do a rewind on. But we're going to do some of those. So, Dan, I can't wait.
I can't wait either. It'll be interesting to see what we say about that, because I know me and you differ a little bit on how much we like the film, so it'll be interesting. Because the other 3 films we sort of came down in the same camp.
Yeah, I feel like you and I were pretty much in agreement on those. Did you see it more than once in the theater?
I saw it twice. The first time I wasn't really thrilled with it, and I liked it a lot more the second time.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely watch it before we, comment on it, obviously, because I've only seen it the one time.
All right, cool. I'll probably do that as well.
Well, thanks a lot for listening, guys. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
We'll see you next time.